Hello everyone, hope you are having a good time. Intellipaat welcomes you to the day 1 of digital marketing series. This session, you will learn what is digital marketing. So let's check the agenda of the session. First, we'll be discussing about what is marketing, then introduction to digital marketing, marketing strategies, and SWOT analysis. That's all with the agenda. Now let's start the session. Before we start the session, kindly subscribe and hit the bell icon for more updates.
So, guys, marketing basically is a promotion of a company's product to their prospect buyers, which is basically called a market. Now, what does that mean? So, let's say I have a company which builds motorcycles, right? So, I have just opened a company and I create world class motorcycles. So, how will you get to know about it? You will only get to know about it when I basically tell the world that I have a company and I create motorcycles, and these are the things which make my motorcycles different from the rest of the world or rest of the companies who create motorcycles or motorbikes as well, right? So this, in a way, when I tell to my customer that this is what my product is and this is a very exciting and new product and these are the features of this product, this is basically marketing, right? And any company which basically has been built till date, there is no sort of way that they would have not done marketing. Every company does marketing, and every day you encounter marketing, different ways of marketing of different companies, right? So if I were to give you an example, if you read newspapers, you will notice that newspapers also have advertisements. If you hear the radio, you will notice that in between the songs you do get advertisements of various products. If you have ever been walking on a footpath or you went somewhere, there would have been someone who would have handed out to you a pamphlet which would have been promoting a product, right? Or if you are going on roads or if you're going on highways, on the sides of the highways you would have noticed that there are a lot of banners or hoardings which are put across which promote a certain product. What are these? These are all different ways of marketing a product, right? And these are all physical forms of marketing, right?
This concept of marketing myopia, this concept was introduced in an Harvard Business Review article. I think this was a 1960 article. So this we are talking about something which is 62 years back, right? So we are talking about something which is 62 years back, and to this date, everyone in the academic, in the industry kind of a community talk about this concept. The marketing myopia concept says that it's a very inward looking concept of approaching marketing. When I talk about inward looking, which essentially says, I look at the world from the perspective of my market, right? I look at the world from the perspective of my market, from the lens of my product, right? I don't look at it from the lens of the customer. I look at it from the lens of my product. So a classic example of a failure of a company, and which hopefully will help you understand this concept of a marketing myopia, is Kodak. So Kodak was in the business of selling camera rolls. Kodak camera rolls. Kodak was the market leader. This was late 90s. Kodak was the market leader. And this was also the time when you had those 24 and 36 film camera rolls, and one had to be very careful in terms of what photograph you clicked, right? Because you only had 24 or 36, and Kodak was a leader in that time frame. Kodak, in fact, it is said that Kodak also had an internal R&D division which came up with the concept of a digital camera. But Kodak kind of ignored that piece and said, look, we are in the business of selling camera rolls. We are the leaders when it comes down to camera films. We are in the business of selling camera rolls. We will go ahead and sell the camera rolls. Right, I'm going to go one level even before a picture. Consumers wanted something which helped them preserve memories. So I said, "ठीक है." Sony and others came and they said, Sony, Canon, etc. came and said, we are giving you a digital camera. Don't worry about 24 or a 36. There is no cost associated. You have an SD card. Take as many pictures as you want and you are good. There is no washing of those films. Take a printout later on if you want. Right? No washing. All of them are stored with you. You have memories stored. Very good. The moment that happened, consumers said, I don't want a Kodak. No, I will move to a Sony or a Canon kind of a thing. So that is where Kodak started losing out. Acha. Now this happened with a Sony and a Canon. Then people said, what if I give you want to preserve memories? You again don't want to carry that camera kind of a thing wherever you go. What I give, if I embed that into a mobile phone and give it to you, people said, brilliant. Nothing like it. So that got embedded in a mobile phone, and the digital camera piece, the low-end digital camera piece which was there, that started getting wiped out. Why? Because again, consumers did not want digital cameras. Consumers wanted a easy way of storing their memories. Now we are living in a world where we have mobiles with high quality cameras, this, that. We just heard that Oppo is positioning itself as the camera phone. We have a great selfie phone, blah, blah, blah. Now, again, imagine tomorrow what we want. The consumers do not want pictures. Consumers want something to relive their memories. Imagine tomorrow if there is a company which says, look, a lot of us wear spectacles. Some of us may not be wearing spectacles, but anyways, let's say for people who wear spectacles, what if I come up with a device which is attached to it, which can record everything that is happening? Let's say I go on a Goa beach, everything gets recorded in a AR, VR kind of a setup. You come back home, put on a VR device, put on the recording, and then you will feel as if you are in Goa. You are running on that beach. You experience everything the way you experienced earlier. If that were to happen, do you think anyone would ever want a mobile camera phone? Right? So again, where we are going towards is, what does the consumer want? So anything that you start looking from the lens of the consumer is what you should be doing. Every time that you focus on what business I am in, and if that business is your product line business, then you are suffering from something which is called a marketing myopia. Right? You start suffering from this thing which is a marketing myopia, which is a short-sightedness, being obsessed about what my product is on offer. Easy to understand a concept, but very hard to actually implement, because a company is faced with multiple trade-offs, multiple situations with trade-offs with billions of dollars kind of involved. The idea is kind of to expose all of you to what possibly could the right approach be. Now, when we go ahead and craft our marketing strategy, there are a set of these steps that we will kind of look at. So when we look at crafting of a marketing strategy, we need to first appreciate that a marketing strategy consists of a host of interrelated issues. There are a large number of interrelated issues that go into crafting of this strategy. We will then talk about quickly about in-depth analysis of how do you kind of look at some of these issues, how do you do the analysis. Some of them are fairly straightforward. So when we look at the schema of what goes into a marketing piece, looks very complex right now. I will explain, and hopefully it will become far more intuitive once we have done this piece. So at the very beginning or the start initial level, when you look at crafting your marketing strategy, the first thing that you need to do is do a scanning of the marketing environment. What does my marketing environment look like? What does my market overall environment look like? Which is where firms normally employ what is called a 5C framework. Right? Firms follow what is called a 5C framework. An analysis of who my customers are, what is the need of those customers, what drives them, what does not drive them, what are the different types of customers, how is the growth rate of these set of customers coming in, right? So we are going to discuss a case which is on Meta Bicycle, I think the next Sunday class, which is where we'll look at some of those segmentation exercises also. Looking at, so the first part of the first C of that 5C is understanding what my customers kind of want, what do these customers look like, how is the growth rate of these customers likely to be, and so on and so forth. Second analysis that you do is you do an analysis of your company itself. We are going to do quickly what is called the SWOT kind of a thing, the strength, weakness, opportunities, threats kind of a thing. I'm sure all of you are aware of it, but I'm going to still talk about it because everyone is kind of aware of a SWOT. And I've found that about 95% of the people end up mixing up on what SWOT is. And everyone understands it's the strengths, weakness, opportunities, and threats. But what do these elements kind of mean and how they are different kind of a thing? So we will do an analysis, and this analysis is important because this helps us introspect into our organization. Where are we likely to succeed? Where are we not likely to succeed? Right? Where do my core competencies lie? Where do they not lie? So understanding what my customers look like, what my company looks like, understanding what does the competitive landscape in this arena looks like, how competitive it is right now, not just the current competitors, it also takes into consideration the potential competitors, it takes into consideration the substitutes. They may not be your existing competition directly in your area, but potential substitutes who can cannibalize your existing offering. So for example, a substitute for a tea could be a coffee. I may not just look at all the other companies which are selling tea, but can someone selling a coffee also be a competitive kind of a competition to me? More so if you go into, let's say, South India. A tea is likely to be coffee is likely to be a bigger competition for a tea than a tea itself, right? So doing analysis of that sort comes into picture. Then the fourth C that you look for is a collaborator. Collaborator could include both your supply side collaborator, it could be your demand side. So people who help you distribute, people who help you manufacture, people who help you with your sourcing, people who can probably help you get into partnerships. So any external organization that you partner with in terms of creating and delivering that value acts as a collaborator. So what does the collaborative landscape look like? So if let's say I'm in an FMCG kind of an environment, do I have a strong distribution setup? Is there a possibility of setting up a strong distribution network? Are these distributors exclusive distributors for a set of organizations or not? Because if they are, then I'm going to find it extremely difficult into getting into this space. What is the intensity within these people? What is the supplier power? What is the buyer power in this scenario? Right? So all of those elements you have to evaluate when you get into the landscape. And the final is the context, which essentially means the overall environment, which is a political, economic, social, technological, legal kind of an environment, government policies. All of those elements come into the context, right? Are the policies going to undergo a dramatic change? So when you do, the starting point is understanding what the customer's competition, my company, collaboration, and the overall context kind of looks like. We do that. Achha. With that, I have a thorough understanding of the landscape, the area that I'm venturing into. Okay? Now that I've decided to get into it, the second step which will come is deciding which set of customers do I go after. Do I go after a middle class? And I'm giving you very crude stuff right now. Huh? We're going to discuss more in terms of a segmentation, targeting, positioning class. Do I go after a middle class? Do I go for a upper middle class? Do I go for someone who's in an urban area? Do I go for someone in a rural area? My offerings vary dramatically, right? Imagine if you're a mobile phone company, your offering for someone in urban India and someone in rural India will be very different. So deciding basis the market environment analysis that done, and you would have identified certain opportunity areas, basis that you identify, so within this landscape, there are these 5 different segments. This segment looks the most exciting for me. Let me go ahead and target that segment. So you decide to target that segment and you create value for that segment, which is the second part. Once you've gone ahead and created value for that segment, once you've identified that segment, then you go into capturing value, which is through this marketing mix. So you go ahead and design your product or a service accordingly, you price it accordingly, you carry out the promotion depending on the places where these people are. What are the likely places that these people are going to visit? So for example, for a program that we have, which is for which invites company representatives to send their people to SPGMR. There's an executive management program that we have at SPGMR. For that kind of a place, I know if my target audience is there could be probably chief HR officers or business heads of organization who can nominate people from their organization, right? So there are multiple set of people who I can reach out to. So I can have a multiple different target segment. But if I've identified the chief HR officers and I know that the time when they're likely to look at this piece from a promotion perspective is, let's say LinkedIn could be a great media for me to capture them versus a Facebook, right? Because it's a work-related official kind of a thing. My selection of all my 4Ps, my product, my where I distribute, where I promote, and where I price will be determined by this. And for all of these elements, we are going to have separate sessions as part of this program. Once you do that, you will go ahead and acquire customers. But it is not just important to acquire customer, because there are times, especially I think Komal, I think came from telecom, right? So Komal will probably tell you that, look, telecom is not just about customer acquisition. In fact, we might end up the acquisition, when we just look at acquisition cost of a customer versus the first time revenue, we are in deep red. We would make huge losses on every customer acquisition. The idea is, how do I move this acquisition into a retention? It is only over a period of time that when I look at the overall customer lifetime value, will I start making money out of this customer. So then you move on to, I've created that value, I've captured a customer. How do I go ahead and retain that customer for the overall profitability of my organization? So this is how the entire marketing strategy map for any organization kind of looks like. Now we will go ahead and try to decipher some of these elements and move further into our overall marketing strategy piece, right? This is what we had done. So the first part, which I discussed with you, which was essentially the 5C framework that companies normally look at when they approach any market. So these are the 5 elements that go into the 5C kind of a framework. The first part is company. What products do I offer? What is my sort of a competitive advantage? My core competency. What is it that I have that the competition does not have, and what the consumer also wants? I may have a lot of things that competition does not have, but the customer may also not want. Those will not qualify as a competitive advantage, but stuff which I have, the customer wants, but the competition does not have. And it's a preservable thing over the long term that goes as part of my competitive advantage. What are my overall long-term goals of the organization? What path do I want to get into? Do I want to be known as a premium kind of an organization? If that is the case, then I'll probably not get into a budget kind of a piece. So the analysis, all of those analysis go as part of your company. Collaborator, we discussed, it could be your partners, it could be your supplier, distributors, service providers, financiers, ad promotion partners. All of those people go as part of your collaborator. How strong are these people? How easy is it for me to tie a relationship with them? How difficult is it for competition to tie a relationship with them? So those kind of analysis you do at first with your collaborators is concerned. Then what are the various customer segments which are available? Which is the one that I can look at? What drives them? What sort of behavior that do they exhibit? And so on and so forth goes as part of a customer. Who are the established or existing competitors in the market, their strengths, weakness, what are the areas that they lack, which I probably have. So those go as part of your competitive analysis. And finally, the context, which we again earlier discussed, the laws, regulation, rules of the land, potential movements within this space, technological, social, economic kind of trends which are there. And this contextualization piece that I'm talking of, while it sounds very straightforward, very large organizations, when they get into their future planning, no. So I remember as part of BCG, we had done one project for probably India's largest engineering, construction, procurement kind of an organization. It's a conglomerate, a behemoth. And this was around 2007-8 when they were looking. So they had given us the mandate of what are the business that they should get into in a 2015. So when we designed that strategy, the first thing that we looked at is some of these social behavioral trends, economic trends, technological trends. How is it that these trends are evolving? There is a world which is today. There's a world which is likely to be in a 2015. What are those various indicators which are driving the world in that direction? And basis that, how can I develop my capabilities so that I am well prepared in a 2015 for those kind of an indicator? So all of those elements go as part of your 5C kind of an analysis. So this is a scanning of the market, understanding of the market kind of a piece. Then when I talk about doing an in-depth analysis of some of these elements, I will not probably get into everything, but some of these elements we will do an in-depth analysis. So let's say understanding the company. Okay, so the critical thing to remember about this in a SWOT, a lot of time people mix up a strength and an opportunity, weakness and a threat kind of a thing. Remember, strengths and weaknesses are something which is internal to the organization. They are what. So if you have a great R&D division, that's your strength. If you have a poor distribution network, that is your weakness. So these are things which are internal to the organization. Depending on what your strengths might give you external opportunities to succeed in. Because of your weaknesses, competition might find areas where they can probably attack you, and those end up being your threats.
Just a quick info, guys. If you want to make a career in digital marketing, then Intellipaat provides a advanced certification in digital marketing and analytics. It is taught by IIT professors and industry experts with more than 10 years of experience. This course is designed to upskill and land your dream job. Now let's continue with the session.
So opportunities and threats are external to the organization. Strengths and weaknesses are something which are internal to the organization, and they lead essentially to formation of those rather presentation of those opportunities and threats. So for example, what could possibly strengths be? Manufacturing efficiency. I have probably the best manufacturing efficiency. I have probably the best R&D division. No one can meet my R&D division. I have a great. So for example, for a lot of these consulting firms, their biggest asset is their workforce. The kind of workforce that I have, the kind of training program that I have, all of those elements are all internal to the organization, and they go as part of the strengths. Or you might have a product formulation which people really like. That is a strength of the organization. Weaknesses could be your facilities are outdated, you don't have enough money to support your expansion, so financing could be an issue. We were just given an example of a consumer perception. So if consumers perceive your product to be offered in a certain manner, I think that has to be overcome. So that becomes a weakness. Weak management team that I have, that could be a huge weakness that I have. A conservative approach that I might have. So a lot of those elements go as part of my weaknesses. Now, because of these strengths that I have, there is a likelihood that because of these capabilities that I have, there's a likelihood that I may even either succeed in certain markets, or for within the existing market, I probably will be able to succeed by introducing two other products, two other additional variants in this place. So possible new markets, opportunities could be maybe because of the capability that I have. I have great capabilities, and my product is thriving in India. There's a very similar geography which exists in a Bangladesh or a Nepal. They have similar requirements. I have the capabilities. It presents as an opportunity for me. So because of the strengths and the capabilities that I have, if I see anything in the external market which presents as an opportunity for me to grow or tap into, that goes as the opportunities area. And finally, what are the threats? What if some new competition comes in? What if I am playing for the long run? And what if I run out of resources? Those could be potential threats that I have. And these are, again, I can run out of resources will be a threat if financing is a weakness that I have. So a lot of your threats emerge from your weaknesses. Strengths are a result. Your opportunities are a result of strengths that you have. Just to give you another example, so that this kind of point is drilled down. Let's say if there's a restaurant company. That restaurant company says, look, I am the only restaurant that serves Japanese cuisine within a 6-mile radius. This is my internal stuff that I have. I am the only one. I'm the only one with that capability in the 6-mile radius, which will be able to give you that Japanese food. I probably have a chef who's probably the most well-known chef in the area. I have probably a very strong value system or a ambience which kind of people come for. All of those things probably form a part of my strengths. My offerings are probably placed on a very high price. That could be a potential weakness. Right now, there is no other competition who's offering a Japanese in that area, comes and offers a Japanese at a lower plate price. Because I have a higher plate price, I might end up losing my customers to them. So a higher plate price could be a weakness. I may not have parking area outside my restaurant. That could be a huge weakness. A modest advertising budget, a single location branch, which means that people outside this area may not know about me. I may not have the capability. I may not have reasons to go ahead and do a pan geography kind of a branding. Now, opportunities, maybe there's a growing consumer need for gluten-free kind of a food, which I currently offer. This area currently is only about X% of the market. It is growing at Y% of the market. So on a year-on-year basis, all of these things, and because I have the capability to succeed in this, all of these things probably provide me as a opportunity. And threats, again, as I said, right now I am a only Japanese cuisine in a 6-mile radius, but I have a higher plate price. What if someone else comes in 2 blocks away at a lower kind of a price point? What if my raw material product, if I don't have a great sourcing partner, if the prices of that kind of go up? So my profitability can get impacted, my plate prices can get impacted, and subsequently my customers can probably kind of leave me. So this is the kind of analysis that you do for your own organization, right? So this is, where is it coming from? This is all coming from this discussion, doing a market analysis. So we've just done the discussion of market analysis about the 5C kind of a piece. We talked about the company, the internal analysis, which is what we've just done here, right? SWOT. There is also something that you do with your customer. So what you do with your customer is essentially a segmentation, targeting, positioning kind of a exercise. What you essentially do is you take an entire look at the entire population and you say, I will divide them into certain groups depending on the different needs that these groups will have, right? So now I have a population may have 100 people. I will divide those 100 people into, let's say, 4 groups of 30, 30, 20, 20. I divide those groups into, and these 30 people all have similar kind of a need. The other 20 have a similar need. The other 30 have a similar need. The other 20 have a similar need. So grouping people on the basis of similarity of needs that they have is called segmentation. Now, I have 4 different segments, one segment of 30, one segment of 30, one segment of 20, one segment of 20. Let's call them A, B, C, D. Now, depending on the ABCD, depending on my capabilities, what I can offer, depending on how profitable is each segment likely to be, A, B, or a C, or a D, I decide to focus my energies on one of those segments, say a segment B. That process is called targeting. So grouping the entire population, you do ABCD. Then you decide, look, I'm going to put all my energies into creating a product, creating my offering with respect to a B, which is called targeting. And what is the image that I want to create in the mind of this B with respect to my organization is called positioning. When this B thinks about me, what is the kind of image that needs to be created in this target segment B's mind? That is called positioning. So that is the entire segmentation, targeting, positioning exercise that you do with respect to your customer base. You look at each segment's growth rate, potential profitability, your capability, and then you carry out this exercise. Okay, then we move on to, when we look at and I'll quickly take a look at this and then we move on. This is with respect to understanding the context, right? This is coming again from here, right? This is the context part. So when I look at a context, which is essentially the landscape. So for a context, this is again one of the frameworks that a lot of people kind of follow. Again, it's called a pestle kind of a thing, which looks at political, economic, social, technological, environmental, and legal aspects. So you took a look at how is the political kind of a landscape changing? Is it going to, and because of this change in political landscape, how are the government policies going to be impacted? And I'm sure all of you would have noticed, right? When in 2014, the BJP government came into picture, the NDA government kind of came into the power, the stocks of certain organizations went up big time because people assume that if this were to happen, there is a likely policy favor which will go in for certain of these organizations, certain of these sectors. Had it been the UPA government, people might have said, look, because of this UPA government, there are certain of these policies which are likely to come into play, and probably certain of these segments likely to grow, not grow, whatever. And this happens not just at a center level, it also happens at a state level. So probably looking at both center level, state level, district level kind of a piece. What are the policies? How stable or unstable is the environment going to be look like? Foreign trade policies and so on. At an economic level, how does again the growth rate etc. look like? More importantly, for the service sector, especially in the export businesses, what is the likely trend going to be for the exchange rate and so on, interest rate? Because all of these things have a huge impact on your profitability. Just imagine if you're working on a business which gives you a 10% margin, and the dollar and rupee.
Just a quick info, guys. Test your knowledge of digital marketing by answering this question. Which of the following is the most popular social networking site in the world? A. WhatsApp, B. LinkedIn, C. Facebook, D. Twitter. Comment your answer in the comment section below. Subscribe to Intellipaat to know the right answer. Now, let's continue with the session.
The rupee kind of appreciates by a 10%. If that were to happen, your entire profitability will go for a toss. Right? If your rupee appreciates by X% and you have a similar kind of a Y% on your margin. So this is where a lot of hedging, etc. takes place. So you have to cover for your political risks, opportunities, economic risk opportunities, similarly, social risk and opportunities. What does the a lot of people talk about India and having the demographic dividend. Because of this demographic dividend, we have a population which is in certain age bracket. Because of this certain age bracket, they are likely to exhibit certain kind of behavior more than others. So looking at the political, economic, social, technological, environmental, and legal kind of aspects, you then decide to take a call with respect to your businesses. Right? This is again in terms of understanding the context. Okay, so now what we have done is we have said, look, now I understand what does the marketing landscape look like in terms of my competition, in terms of my customer, in terms of my own organization, what do my collaborators look like, what does the context look like? And we've also done a bit of segmentation, targeting, positioning to understand what the customer mindset is like. Now, when you look at coming up with growth opportunities, so what are the possible ways for a firm to grow? So when we look at assessing growth opportunities, the growth opportunity can actually come from 3 different areas. Now, let's say this is where your growth is. At a time 0, this is where our sales are. If my desired sales are somewhere here in terms of $1 million, there is some sale that I can get with my current portfolio. There is some sale that I get with integrative growth, which is a horizontal or a forward or a backward integration, and then something which is called a diversification growth. So 3 types of growth that a firm has: intensive, integrative, or diversification. The intensive growth essentially comes from your current portfolio. As one of you said, if I am in a particular business, how can I grow my existing business with my existing kind of a target segment that I have? So there is, let's say I am into petroleum retailing. If I'm in petroleum retailing, how do I increase the business, increase the sales from my existing business? So I can probably open up more petrol pumps, more places. I can do something to attract a larger number of people to come to my petrol bunks, probably offer free air, free maintenance checkup, free health checkup of your vehicle. I can do multiple such things, free car wash, free whatever. So I can do multiple things. So that is called an intensive growth, which is where you're trying to grow your business through the existing mechanism that you have. Okay? Then you have something called integrative growth. Integrative growth means that there's a value chain, right? So let's say if I'm into petroleum retailing, I can decide to move backward into my petroleum retailing, essentially saying I'll go upstream. I'll go upstream, and I will also do oil extraction. So I will also get into oil extraction, followed by oil refining, and then move into I anyways have my petrol bunks. So that is called integrative growth. Or let's say if I'm a firm which is purely into oil refining, I can go both upstream and downstream. I can decide to go upstream and say, look, I will probably also drill oil and get that oil and refine oil myself. Anyway, I'm refining oil. I will also go upstream and bid for those oil oil basins, and I will get into oil production. So that is backward integration. Forward integration could be, look, anyways, I'm refining oil, I'm selling it to IOC, I'm selling it to BPCL, I'm selling it to HPCL, I'm selling it to SR. Let me go ahead and open my own petrol pumps. So that is called a forward integration. So you have a forward integration and a backward integration. So that is called integrative growth. So in all of these cases, you are trying to improve your existing business. So when the way you try to improve your business is, look, right now, for example, let's take a look at, and it's refining business. When Reliance is in its refining business, my core competence currently lies in refining. You give me any oil, I have the manufacturing efficiency, or rather the refining efficiency, to the extent that I'll be able to refine it at the lowest possible quality, at the best possible lowest possible cost, at the best possible quality. Right? That is where my core competence lies. How do I increase the business by getting more companies to probably buy stuff from myself? I can probably put up 2 more refining towers next to my existing refining tower. That is my intensive growth, the area where I currently have my core capability or my core strengths. Correct? That is intensive. I might decide, look, this is what I anyways do, but eventually there is a value which is spread throughout the value chain. There is value in terms of even extracting oil. There are people who extract oil, give it to me, I buy from them, I pay them some premium. So those people from extracting and giving to me, they are also taking some part of the value. Then the oil that I produce diesel, I produce petrol, I produce multiple other oil grades, I sell it to different other people. They also distribute, and by distribution, via distribution also, they also make their money. They make their money because they're also adding value to the end consumer. So, and those areas are not my core capability right now. I might decide to either integrate myself in the upstream area and I go into the oil blocks, or I go into the downstream area and I also probably go into the petrol and diesel kind of a distribution setup. In both of these areas, I'm moving away from my core competence and I'm developing competence outside it. So yes, all of them goes towards my revenue mechanism, but in the difference is, in one area I already have my core competence, in the other one I have to build either an upstream or a downstream. So essentially, net the piece is, there's a value which is being created in the entire piece, right from the raw material till it reaches to the consumer. So there's a raw material which is processed. After processing, there are multiple intermediaries which do multiple things. It could be a distribution, it could be processing, it could be doing whatever, passing it on to the customer. So each of these intermediaries plays some role in ensuring that raw material changes its form, comes into the form that the consumer wants it, is delivered to the consumer by multiple intermediaries. And if you're one of those intermediaries, you might decide to play the role of multiple other intermediaries. If you are doing that, you are getting into a phase which is called an integrative growth phase. Let's say you are a cloth processing unit, right? You manufacture shirts. You manufacture shirts. Okay, that is what you do. You have a factory. That factory manufactures shirts. You buy cloth from a set of people and you manufacture shirts. You convert that cloth into shirt and you sell it to multiple other people. So your current business is manufacturing of shirts. Is that okay? Okay, so right now you are in a manufacturing of shirt. In an intensive growth, I will try and see how can I sell more shirts. That is, how do I partner with a larger number of people so that I can create larger number of shirt and sell it to all of those brands who will then sell outside. That is intensive. But tomorrow I feel, yeah, if this is happening and these people are making so much money, why not launch a private label brand of my own? I'm currently creating these shirts, putting in a Peter England on that, Alan Solly on that. And these Peter England and Alan Solly go and sell it via distributors. Why not me? I'm anyways into manufacturing. Let me put my brand on it. Let's say I will call it Shabbir's. So we will put a Shabbir, I will put a Shabbir label on it, and I will go and start selling it also. Yeah, so essentially you're saying, look, what you are doing, no, is right now you are within that value chain, you are playing one part. There is a raw material which comes in, you process that raw material, and then you pass it on to someone else who will distribute it, sell it under their brand, and so on and so forth. So right now, let's say the raw material processing, procurement and processing is part one. Raw material procurement is part one. Your processing is part two. The distribution, branding, etc. is part three. You are currently playing in part two. That is what you play in. If you decide to play in part three, or you decide to play in part one also, then you are getting into an integrative growth. Okay? So either you move up the value chain or down the value chain, and you say, if there is people who are making money, can I also make money? The third could be, you say, look, I will get into some business which are completely unrelated to my business, because I feel that that is a lucrative opportunity. So I am right now into refining, but I see that cloth business is a huge growing business. I will go into cloth, completely not linked to what I'm doing. I'm trying to diversify my business. For example, when ITC moved away from cigarettes and got into clothing, that is a diversification of business. Moving into arena, which is not your current play area, and getting into a completely brand new kind of an area, that is a diversification growth. So the growth can come either by increasing your existing business, or moving front or backwards in your existing value chain, which is your integrative growth, or getting into area which is completely outside all of this, which is called a diversification growth.
Just a quick info, guys. If you want to make a career in digital marketing, then Intellipaat provides an advanced certification in digital marketing and analytics. It is taught by IIT professors and industry experts with more than 10 years of experience. This course is designed to upskill and land your dream job.
We have come at the end of the session. Kindly subscribe and hit the bell icon for more updates.